Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling, where you're either going to be educated or irritated by some things that I have to say, maybe a little bit of both at the same time. But today I'm going to give you guys a comprehensive guide on choosing the correct size of jig as far as the weight goes, because the weight, in my opinion, has a huge factor, plays a huge role in not only the number of strikes that you get, but the size of the fish you get. So I'm going to give you guys what I've learned in over 50 years of jig fishing. I got a pretty simple system to decide, the size of jig head that I use. So I'm going to give you guys all the juice on that. And again, if you guys are interested, and I'm going to be talking about the new block at Old School Jig. If you guys are interested in any of these jigs, you can get them at Baitworks online right now. I'll include the link in the description here, and you can order them. Really had an overwhelming support of the jig since we came out with it last week. Much appreciated to everybody that's been ordering them, and we'll get going on these tips here. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the jig sizes, guys. The Old School jig that I designed, it comes in 3 different sizes. It comes in the 1/4 ounce here. It comes in a 3/8 ounce head here, and a 5/8 ounce head. The difference between the 3/8 and the 5/8. And I wanted to keep it simple in those 3 sizes because, in my opinion, those are the key sizes for pitching and flipping, unless you're using like a 1 ounce jig to penetrate some super thick flooded cover, or excuse me, super thick like flooded vegetation and that type of stuff. And we may come out with a 1 ounce jig at some time, but I think that the 5/8, the 3/8, and the 1/4 are the key sizes to use in a wide range of conditions. And so I'm going to start out small and I'll go heavy, sort of tell you what I guys use. First of all, let's talk about the 1/4 ounce. The 1/4 ounce, this is a really good size that not a lot of people use. You can, on our jig here, the little bit difference is you can see how small this head is, and we've got quite a bit of weight on the shank of the hook there. So the advantage to this is you want the heads that you're going to land more bass, guys, if you have a small head, because the bigger the head on the jig, the more that you open the mouth of that fish when you set the hook with a large piece of lead there. So you want a small head. That's why we purposely designed to put quite a bit of weight on the shank here to make that head smaller there. So the 1/4 ounce, here's the situations I use it. Most of the time when I'm fishing a 1/4 ounce jig, I'm fishing it in pretty dirty water. Usually water visibilities of, probably less than 2 foot, 2 foot at the max, but I really prefer a 1/4 ounce jig if you have anywhere between 6 inches to 12 inches of visibility in the water. And I'm not really concerned that much about the water temperature. It's more about the water depth, the type of cover that I'm fishing, and the water visibility. I've caught a bunch of good fish, guys, on a 1/4 ounce jig in 90-degree water and 45-degree water both. But the main thing I'm looking for is I'm looking for a sparser cover. Like I'll pitch a 1/4 ounce jig like on rocky banks. If the water's dirty, like pitch it right up on the bank there, have a nice slow fall. Or if I'm pitching it around like maybe a boat dock piling or a stump or some type of isolated laydown.
Daddy.
What happened?
Something got under the couch.
Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, guys, got Elijah squared away there. Back out to it here. So anyway, guys, what I was saying about the 1/4 ounce jig, to me, it's all about the cover that I'm fishing, water visibility, and wanting that slow fall with that. So like I said, this is probably the size that I use least of all, although there are situations where it's just, you can't beat it. I mean, it's just like one of the best sizes that you can possibly use. I really like a 1/4 ounce jig also if the water is extremely muddy. And a lot of times if it's like 4 inches visibility or something like that, I can take a 1/4 ounce, like a dark jig, like a black one with a black chunk on it, has that real slow fall on there, and it gets a lot of bites there. And also, and I'll talk about this, I wanted to mention this, the fall on these jigs, whether, I don't care if you're using a 3/8, a 1/4, or the 5/8, the fall is going to be also directly affected by the type of trailer that you have on it. The bigger, the bulkier the trailer, especially if you have like a big flapping leg trailer like a Zoom Super Speed Craw or a Rage Craw, that's really going to slow the fall down. So say, for example, on this 1/4 ounce jig, if I have like a little Zoom Super Chunk on there, just like a chunk type trailer on there, this jig is going to fall twice as fast with that chunk type trailer than it will with a big flapping leg drag trailer. So that's, you need to remember that too when you set up your jigs as far as the trailer. Also the line size. I flip the 1/4 ounce a lot of times on 25-pound test line, which also really slows it down. If you have it on 12-pound test line versus 25, it's also going to be a determining factor. So that's the 1/4 ounce. Now the 3/8, guys, this is probably the most common size that I use and a lot of people use too. The 3/8 is a super versatile bait because it allows you to have a little bit faster fall. It allows you to fish a wide range of cover. You can fish a little bit thicker cover with it. You can penetrate those little bit thicker laydowns. Sometimes I'll even flip flooded bushes, that type of stuff with it, back underneath dock pilings, thicker cover like that. And it fishes really good with a variety of different trailers on it, the chunk trailers and the curly tail trailers both. So most of the time, a lot of people get locked into the 3/8 ounce jig because they're just comfortable with the way it falls. A 3/8 ounce jig is a very friendly jig to fish because you can maintain bottom contact with a 3/8 ounce jig, and it's not too heavy, it's not too light. It fishes really good, smooth in the hand. But overall, this is the most popular size right here. Although you are limited a little bit as far as the density of cover that you fish. Now, a lot of it also, again, has to do with the water visibility, water depth, and to some extent the water temperature a little bit. Let's say, for example, if you're fishing flooded bushes that have 6 feet of water in it, if you feel that those fish are on the bottom, there's no reason to fish a lighter jig. You want to get that fish, that bait to the bottom quick so you can go on a little bit heavier size. But if you're catching some fish as the jig's falling and on the bottom both, that's when like a 3/8 works really good too. So it's just a really good all-around size. Now the 5/8 ounce jig, this is my favorite jig, and I'm going to sort of show you the difference between the 5/8 and the 1/4 just to give you a size comparison. You can see it's quite a bit different here, quite a bit different. The 5/8 ounce jig is my favorite jig to fish when the fish are biting it, because the thing about it, a 5/8 ounce jig, you can make a lot of presentations and get that jig to the bottom in a hurry. You don't have a lot of wasted time waiting for that jig to fall. A lot of times the fish will react to a heavy jig better than a light jig, especially if you're fishing water that's a little bit clear. One of the good things about it, guys, if you're fishing clear water, very seldom will a light jig outproduce a heavy jig. So if I'm fishing water visibility that is over 3 foot, most of the time I'm using the 5/8 ounce jig, regardless of the type of cover that I'm fishing. I could be fishing bare banks, bluffs, docks, whatever like that, but in that clear water, I want the faster fall. And again, the fall rate is going to be determined on my line size and the chunk trailer that I have on it with that. Also, you're going to find out in the summertime of the year that if you're fishing really shallow cover, like, maybe cover that's just like 2 foot deep, logs, stumps, whatever like that, a heavy jig will generate more strikes at times in the summertime of the year because the fish's metabolism is a little bit warmer and you get more of a reaction strike with that fast fall like that. So a lot of it is just determining the mood that the fish are in. I mean, you're going to get bites on a jig sometimes, even if you're not using the right size. Say, for example, if we went out flipping bushes in 3 foot of water and we had a 3/8 and a 5/8, there's a good chance that I might get 20 bites on the 5/8 and you might get 12 or 15 on a 3/8. You can still get bit on if you don't have the exact right size of jig, but it's all about figuring out the fall rate that those fish want with the jig and the efficiency. So you're looking for a combination of efficiency, fall rate, and what generates the bigger strikes. Now, sometimes in those situations that I'm talking about where the water's really dirty and muddy, sometimes the fall rate on a slow jig is what they want. I remember I was fishing a FLW tournament at the Mississippi River several years ago, and I led the tournament the first 3 days. The first day, second day, and the third day I led the tournament, and I was fishing really muddy water, like visibility that maybe was 3-4 inches, and I caught them all on a 1/4 ounce jig with 30-pound test line and a big #1 frog. This thing was just barely sinking in the water like that. It was so light. I had the big frog and the big line. But those big fish, I was catching almost a 4-pound average, and those big fish wanted that slow fall in that dirty water. That's just what they wanted. I tried heavier stuff and it didn't work. So overall, guys, just experiment with it. That's just the foundation that I'll give you guys here. Again, here's the 3 sizes of the block of old school: 1/4 ounce, 5/8, 3/8 here. Pretty much covers all the water situations that you're going to come into contact with. And just remember, when you're talking about jig size, it's a matter of efficiency, generating that strike, and just figuring out the mood that the fish are in. So anyway, I hope that helped you guys have a little bit of a foundation. We'll get into even more details on these jigs later on. We got so much to cover on jigs because there's so much to it. I'll go into specific situations on each size at some point to really refine the approach a little bit. So again, thanks for tuning in, guys, and please hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and we'll talk to you later.